Welcome to another edition of Real Estate Live. I'm Kathy Mae Martin, and I'm excited to be your host today. We've got a great show for you. If you've ever wondered what your house value is, we've got the expert that knows how to determine that. So stay tuned. Check out the screen. You can comment to us live on Facebook or call us at the number on the screen, and we're going to answer all those questions and more live on the air today. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm excited to have as our guest today an appraiser with KAB Real Estate Appraisers, and her name is Sarah Bullington. And how long have you been in the business, Sarah?
I have been an agent for 12 years here at Coldwell Banker, and I have been an appraiser with the state of Tennessee for the last 8 years.
Wow, has it been that long?
It's been 8 years.
Yeah, I remember when you got your appraiser's license, knew you were going to be great at it. What made you really want to do that side of the business?
I loved the search. I loved the dig. This is all about finding the right comparables, researching the data that's there, and that was what I really enjoyed about real estate.
It's a data-driven business.
Data-driven, completely.
It's totally data. So, for those who don't fully understand what you do, what does an appraiser actually do on a day-to-day basis?
Day-to-day basis is, our responsibility is actually valuing the collateral that a buyer has asked the lender to write a check for. So, these buyers, it's just another piece of the real estate puzzle. Buyers obtain financing, and that lender or lending institution wants to make sure that the check that they're writing for this house is worth the check itself, and that their value is credible, and that their collateral for that is sound.
And you're an independent party.
I am.
From that bank.
I am an independent party.
So what do you think the most or the biggest misconception, and we'll come back to that. We've got a question here. What features tend to add the most value in this area? And that could change. It
changes. It changes honestly seasonally. It depends on what time of the year. We already know that lakefront properties sell better in the spring and summer. When that water's high, when the utility of that lakefront is at its peak. As far as the dwelling itself, we tend to see the most value return in kitchen renovations, flooring renovations, bathroom renovations. That's where we tend to see buyers and sellers, they get that biggest bang for their buck.
That's where I see most of the women gravitate to. They gravitate to the kitchen and the bathroom.
Yes.
So they put value
They
on
put
that,
value
for
on
sure.
that.
What's one of the biggest misconceptions that buyers and agents have about appraisals that you think?
I think that one of the biggest is that just because there is a difference between two properties that, for all intents and purposes are truly comparable properties, that just because there's a slight difference, that automatically means that there is an adjustment to be made on that property. And that's not actually the case. That's not how those are derived.
Yeah, I can see that being a misconception. Is there anything that you think agents should have a better understanding of your side of the business that maybe we think we know, but maybe we don't?
That honestly, how the adjustments are actually derived, and that that small difference, or sometimes we see even larger differences that similar area, similar gross living area, similar location, similar salient features, but yet, we might have slight differences here and there, that those differences automatically mean that this one is better or worse than the subject.
Right. Okay. How do you truly determine value? What weighs in the most when you're saying, okay, you're getting ready to submit that to the bank or the owner? What was really the biggest part of that appraisal?
Closed sale data, always. It is in the definition of market value itself. That one of the requirements and the definition itself dictates that the sale has to be a consummated sale, and that title has to pass from the seller to the buyer. Well, that happens through a closed sale.
Right.
So that's where that data comes from. That is the market truly speaking
Yes.
about what that house is worth.
100%. I agree with that. And I know sometimes in certain markets, that was not the COVID market, but back when the economy tanked, it was hard to find
hard to do
sales
that.
within a certain radius.
It certainly was.
And sometimes the bank does require that, right?
Those are a little bit of a misconception. Those preferred radiuses and distances and search parameters don't really exist anymore. If we need to
Okay.
expand search criteria in order to find the most appropriate comparable, we can do so. What we can't do in that process is skip over what could be considered a relevant sale just to locate one that may support that contract a little better than one that may be closer.
Good point.
Yes.
Makes complete sense. Your job, if the appraiser or if the bank calls you, is to protect the bank in that.
That is our sole purpose. Our client and the intended user of the appraisal is the client, is the lender themselves. They're wanting to make sure that the check they're getting ready to write at the request of this buyer is worth it in its collateral.
Yes, and that makes sense. A lot of buyers and sellers and agents, quite frankly, don't understand
They
that.
don't.
They don't
No.
understand your position and all this.
Yeah, that they have asked the lender to write a check. They have made an offer on a property. They have asked a lender to write that check for them. That lender then wants to protect that money that they are investing in this collateral.
Yeah, they want to make sure it's there.
Yeah.
So how much of a difference, let's say, condition and location might change the value of a comp? Let's say if you had a comp in Kingston, you're getting a comp for Kingston, but you find that same similar home in, let's say, Morgan County or, kind of far out, you have to adjust? How does that work?
We do. So it all goes back to that old decades-long saying in real estate of location, location, location.
Thank you. Yeah.
When it comes to a difference in condition, your location is key.
Yes.
So and I use this particular analogy frequently. In Farragut, we have Bridgemore development. The closed median sale price currently in Bridgemore is over $2 million.
Wow.
Within 1,200 linear feet, we have it's Fort West or West Fort. The closed median sale price in that development is just over $700,000.
Big difference.
There's a huge difference. 1,200 linear feet.
Yeah.
So it's the same location. So even in that close of a proximity, we can have significant variations.
Yeah.
So only one of those will be happy that they used the other as a comp.
Right.
If that does not go both ways, it's not really a comp.
Exactly. It's kind of like real estate. I always say it's like the weather. It could be raining here in Kingston and snowing in
Certainly.
Rockwood. It's all location
Certainly.
driven. Can two appraisers come up with two different values?
Most definitely.
Yes. I think five appraisers.
I think 5 appraisers could come up with 5 different values. If they are credible appraisals, if you have 5, you should have a nice tight little range. Are you going to have identical figures? Very likely not. But you're going to have a very tight range of values if those 5 reports are credible. It's just like multiple listing agents, interviewing to list a property. If you interview 5 agents, you might very well get 5 different listing prices.
Yeah,
and it's all
opinions.
about data. It's all about data. You know,
Yes.
which agent has done the most and appropriate due diligence in accurately valuing that particular sale. Same with appraisers.
Because chances are that house is going to have an appraisal before it gets to the closing
Most likely.
check.
Most likely.
So, we have another comment. What do people think adds value but doesn't? That's a good question.
Routine maintenance items.
Yeah.
Like painting, like updating light fixtures in a 25, 30-year-old dwelling. We just tend to see at that age that these things need to be replaced.
Yes.
So I would say the biggest is just routine maintenance things. You know, keeping the yard mowed, mulching the flower
Roof.
beds. It's
A roof.
expensive. A roof even. It is a significant cost. It's also routine maintenance.
Yeah, that was a great question. And we have another comment. How hard is it to find comps for barn dominiums?
Yes.
I imagine it's getting easier. 'cause
It is
there
becoming
are some.
easier. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. 5 years ago, that was not the case. And this is another one of those misconceptions that homeowners occasionally believe that because their property is unique, that makes its value increase. And you know what we know in the real estate world and in the appraising world is you are appealing to the most number of buyers possible. If you have a very unique property that doesn't fit that bill, your appeal, you know, it diminishes sometimes based on the uniqueness of those properties, and they don't necessarily appeal to a whole lot of buyers. So in the sales perspective, that limits the number of buyers that you have available for that property. Same is true in appraising. They are a unique situation, similar to an A-frame design, which we don't see a whole lot of anymore. 40 years ago, they were somewhat more common. They do exist. You don't tend to be able to stay with that location mentality. So, you know, we do have to extend the search parameters.
Yeah, and I think that's something that agents should recognize as well, that, hey, they might want a barn dominium, but the market is very slim for people
Yes.
that actually want a barn dominium. It is growing, however. But when they come time to sell, they have to factor that in. I think
They
we
do.
got another comment. If you could give homeowners one piece of advice before selling, what would it be? Good question.
Go through and do your routine maintenance. You know, and what I say on that aspect is the same that I would tell a seller of mine before listing. Those things matter. You know, appraisers are looking at, among a number of things, overall condition of a property. If it has, you know, had those routine maintenance items taken care of, and you know they're up to date, and you know we don't have any water stains from a previous leak in a roof, I would definitely say general maintenance items.
General maintenance.
They are very important in all aspects of real estate.
I know when we go to listing appointments, quite often they want the seller themselves start adding value because, like you said, they replaced the light fixtures or
Yes.
they put on a new roof, and you know they don't get that. That's general maintenance.
It is. And it's a
That's a good
costly.
point.
It's a costly item. All of these things are replacing your HVAC. If it goes out, the market expects a functioning HVAC, a
Yes.
water heater. They're expensive.
Yeah.
The market expects a functional water heater that's not 30 years old. You know, those are just things that we just have to unfortunately take care of.
Yeah. So let's say a house that's staged as opposed to a house that's cluttered, you know, same footprint, does that affect your opinion at all?
Absolutely not. That is all personal property. Although, we look over that, and, from our perspective in valuation, it doesn't exist. People's personal belongings are their personal belongings. We're there to value the real property.
Yes.
Does that affect marketing? It certainly can.
Yes.
What does marketing affect in the long run? Higher number of days on market, possibly a lower selling price. What can you tie that to?
Yeah.
Possibly that clutter. So is that in effect at the end result, does that clutter affect its value? It certainly can. Not from a visual perspective of an on-site, as part of the valuation process, but, time tells exactly what buyers thought of that. If you have two properties, that are similar in every way but staged or, relatively well kept and tidy versus cluttered, I think that most of the time we see higher number of days on market and we see a lower selling price. So it does reflect it in the end.
I'm going to give a big amen to that.
Yes.
I think we got another comment. What's the craziest or most unusual property you've ever appraised? Can you think of one?
I haven't really had a whole lot of what I would consider, really challenging assignments. They are all challenging in their own way. I have had one that was on a private lake that wasn't owned. The landowner did not have rights to the private lake.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So I had some unique situations like that. But honestly, the most difficult assignments are the assignments where I have, I've gotten 75, 80% through this thing, and I've realized it's not meeting contract. Those are the hardest ones. They take the longest. I spend easily twice the amount of time on those.
Yeah.
Not only am I supporting and defending my opinion of value and the data that I have located, but in a way, I'm discrediting a listing price and a contract price.
And a buyer's opinion of value.
And a buyer's opinion of value. So I then am not only supporting what I have found to be true, but I have to then support why this is not true. Those are the most difficult ones.
Yeah, that's hard.
It is hard.
That is hard.
Yeah.
You've got a tough job because you've got to really look out for the bank's interest.
Yes.
And sometimes that means the buyer not getting the house that he wants,
Yes.
and the seller maybe possibly having to take a lower price
Yes.
or find another buyer.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
We have another comment or question. If an appraisal comes in lower than the agreed purchase price, how big of a problem is that, and how do you handle it? Well,
Honestly, it's not a problem.
yeah.
Facts are facts. Data is data. This is again all data driven. The appraiser's purpose is to locate the most credible data and report what the buyers and the typical buyer and the market have already said. So historically, we obviously prefer recent data. The more recent, the better. It's the most reflective of the current market. But I think in that perspective, it becomes a situation where, again, maybe an appropriate due diligence was not done. And often I see that I'm skipping over this closed sale because I really don't like where it closed at, but one a mile away closed $75,000 higher, and I'm gonna lean on that for a little increase in this list price. We can't do that.
Yeah, I can tell you, caller, that becomes our problem, the agent's problem, and we go back to the seller and the buyer at that point. Number one, the buyer has the right to void the contract.
Yes.
The buyer has the right, he can come back and ask for an adjustment on price. So lots of ways to work through that, and we try our best to make those things happen. Oh, we got a comment that says, she's a great appraiser and we like her.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's got great knowledge.
I will say from the ROV perspective, the reconsideration of value, if it does come in low, I can tell you in 8 years, I have never turned in an appraisal that did not meet contract, that I had not first reached out to both the listing agent and the buyer's agent.
Oh, that's
I want to see where this process from them came from. I want to see the comps and the data that you used in your pricing.
Yeah.
I want to see the comps and the data that you used in maybe support of your negotiation,
Right.
In support of your offer price. I want to see where your puzzle pieces are.
Yeah.
Because just like the buyer and the seller and the lender, the appraisal is a piece to that puzzle. We want all of those pieces to fit together nicely. That is the forward progression of real estate, and that is the goal in all of this. So if I can get a response from these agents, and here's the data that I used, I review every one of them, and they will always find that in my appraisal every single time.
Do your due diligence.
Do your due diligence.
For upfront agents.
Yes.
And so if you do get that call, you can hopefully help your appraiser determine the value
Certainly.
of that house, or how you and your seller and possibly the buyer came up with it. How do you handle a property that, gosh, you just can't find any comps? Is that come up?
I
would
yes,
imagine.
it does occasionally.
Yeah.
There is always some kind of a comp. It's not going to fit in a nice, neat little box. We're going to have significantly expanded search parameters, whether that be distance or time or square footage or other salient features. It becomes difficult to extract those adjustments based on those market reactions, because if we are playing in different markets, that buyer pool might view these things differently. So it's not a pretty appraisal,
No.
but we can certainly make it happen.
Yeah, that's gotta be a tough one. With that being said, how does a bank go about choosing an appraisal?
Honestly, it's kind of luck of the draw. We had some regulation changes years ago, so lenders can no longer choose their appraisers. So unless you're working for a direct lender, I work for several, you end up being on an appraisal roster. And from the best knowledge that I have on that is it's kind of a running list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it just kind of circles back. That's the best knowledge I have on that. And they don't like to tell you how they do it.
That's what we've always been told.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a roster
A rotating
list.
roster.
But you guys don't choose it. The lender actually
Yes.
chooses it.
Yes.
See,
Yes.
I had been told prior that the actual appraiser says, yeah, I'll take that one, or no, I won't. So,
Yeah, we can certainly decline anything that comes over, whether that's for conflict of interest, whether that is for, personal timing issues and your own personal calendar, for a number of reasons. But, I try to get as many in as I can.
Yes, yeah. So, Justin, and we haven't had to deal with this much lately, but through COVID, how does over the asking price offers affect your value?
If a buyer is offering cash, they are willing and ready to pay whatever they deem appropriate.
Right.
Whether that is supported in the market or not. I will say I had several of those, particularly during COVID, that were not supported. Ended up with several about 3 years later on a refinance situation, and their appraisal did not support what they paid for the house 3 years ago.
I'm not surprised.
It was the wild, wild west.
It was the wild, wild west.
It certainly was.
And Parts of it were great, but if you were on the buyer's side,
Yes.
especially a first-time buyer, it
Yes.
was really
It was hard times.
Yeah, it was hard times. What about, everybody goes to Zillow, and sometimes before I go to a listing appointment, they're like, my house on Zillow just went up $45,000 yesterday, and it's worth X amount of
Yes.
dollars.
Yes.
Does that really influence you at all?
Zillow is as accurate as the A in Zillow.
Yes. Well, I called Zillow.
Take that for what you will.
I called Zillow one time, and I'm like, how do you determine value? And they told me at that point in time, now this has been a few years back,
It's like
that
Russian
they
roulette.
go 5 miles as a crow flies, and they'll pick up any comps in that 5-mile radius. Now again, this was information a few years back. Now, they could have pulled up a house in the Bridgemore subdivision,
Of course.
or they could have pulled up a mobile home,
Certainly.
4.5 miles down the
Yes.
street. So it's not really true accurate value
Absolutely not.
for the listing agent or an appraisal
No.
or a bank.
Absolutely
Or
not.
but a lot of sellers are disillusioned, I think.
They
by that.
are, and I think that it is somewhat of a it's certainly a huge misconception, but I think that it is a lack of knowledge of where to go get that data. And your best option for that is your local real estate professional.
Yes,
So-
thank you. Okay, so I know one of your biggest, well, it's not one of your biggest, but is determining the square footage.
Yes.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, I have always used the ANSI measurement standard. It is a National Buildings Measurement Standard. I have never used anything else. Just a few years ago, Fannie Mae Freddie Mac have decided that this is now appropriate for all lending that they are involved in. So appraisers are now all required to follow the ANSI measurement standard, which is an exterior measurement on most residential properties. So
Yes. And most of the time, the agent, if they don't have a prior appraisal, or maybe the building plans from the
Yes.
seller, they take it from tax records, and those are not always accurate.
I would say in the past 8 years, and I look at a lot of tax records on a daily basis. I would say that I have had less than 6, less than a half a dozen be somewhat accurate
Yeah.
in as
Wow.
many as I look at.
Wow.
They are
Yeah.
just grossly inaccurate. They come from aerial photography sometimes. They come from a number of sources, and they're all third party. They are not first-hand measurements.
Yeah.
If you need a measurement on a house, the best avenue for that is call an appraiser.
Call an
Get a
appraiser.
sketch done. If you don't want a full valuation, that's not a problem. Most of us perform measurement services only, and it is the best and most accurate way to have the best information for your listing.
Yeah, because you don't want to come up 500 square feet short in an appraisal, because
Absolutely
that
not.
affects value.
It certainly does.
And, at that point, somebody's going to probably say, well, I made my offer based on X amount of square footage.
Absolutely.
It's 500 less. So
Well, and then
it
agents,
creates-
yes, they can be actually, looked at as a misrepresentation. They were using the data that they had.
Right. right.
It is in print. It is a third-party source. But,
Yeah.
when it comes down to, the end of the day and a buyer loses a house because it's not what they thought it
Yes.
was, people can get upset.
Yes, they can. Absolutely. I know pre-COVID, pools and hot tubs were not giving much value.
Right.
Then came COVID. Everybody wanted a pool.
Yes.
Everybody wanted a hot tub. You
Outside.
couldn't get one put in, and you couldn't find a hot tub. How's that looked at today?
It's done a reversal of standard features. I think that we saw a huge influx, and it was just the time period of COVID. The world was shut down. You couldn't go anywhere. outdoor amenities at homes were paramount.
Yes.
If you had a listing that had an amazing yard and amazing outdoor amenities,
Yeah. It created more value.
it created more value, and they were very valuable properties.
Yes.
We were, I know personally, I mean, I was seeing pool extractions of sometimes greater than dollar for dollar. That doesn't happen in anything.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
you almost never get a dollar for dollar return on particular updates and renovations.
Yeah.
There were instances where I saw greater than a dollar for dollar return.
Yeah. And that's how the market can change.
Yes.
And an appraiser has to be in tune and in touch
Certainly.
and have her pulse or their pulse on what the market is doing and have to factor that
Right.
somewhere into the data.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And
So-
we've reverted back to, they don't contribute a whole lot. They
Yeah.
are very expensive to put in. They're very
Yeah.
expensive to
maintain.
maintain. It's a value in use.
Right.
You know, that if it was there when they purchased, maybe they were looking specifically for it. If they ended up putting it in, it was something that they, as the homeowner, wanted.
Right.
Not all
Yeah.
buyers want that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Sarah, my goodness, we're already running out of time. If you had one piece of advice that you could give the audience today on being prepared or doing an appraisal, what would that be?
take a look at the overall condition. Outside of location, the overall condition of the property is huge. You want your comparative properties to be very similar. You want similar salient features. So you want your home to have that routine maintenance. And while they are expensive, it may not certainly add value, but it does make your home more appealing. And in the market, that's what these buyers are looking for. If you've got two properties, one is a little better maintained, but all other salient features are very similar price ranges. Which one is your buyer going to choose? So,
Wow.
Condition
Lot
is key.
of great information. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope we've answered most of your questions. If you still have more questions or thinking about getting an appraisal, please call Sarah Bullington at KAB Appraisals. The number is listed there on the screen, and I promise she'll do a great job for you. Thanks again. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here live next Thursday with an expert on home warranties. So be sure and tune in. Want to thank Scott Wilk with Wilk Productions for making this happen. Stay tuned. See you next week.